Alles klar, mug?
I love your mug. Actually, it's not yours, but I'm just gonna say that. People are gonna.
Phil gave me this mug. It has a lot of
You hold it.
kitten in it.
Yeah, it's a cute one.
And we had hot chocolate because we're Swiss and it's cold. And that's it. And Phil has a cool one, but he doesn't want to use it. It's
No, it's not as cool as the kitten one.
What I want is Coke. And but it's
actually does say
Coca-Cola.
that?
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean,
Jesus.
you do you, but
Yeah. I do me.
hey, today's episode is going to be fun.
Is it?
I don't know.
What is
you
it about?
tell me.
Oh.
It's going to be fun.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
It's about a topic that we like to talk about.
Kebabs.
Mom.
No.
No, it's not. It's something else than kebab.
What could it be? I know. I'm just kidding.
It's you know it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, it says in the title. You can just check on YouTube.
Yeah. Check on the title. Lighting.
Oh,
Lighting.
Oh,
No, lighting is one of the, if not the most important thing in creating images.
I like to say cinematography is lighting. Full
That's
stop.
really deep. Who did you get that from?
I just
Roger Dick.
did he say that?
No,
No,
I don't know.
think. I think it's from Phil Schneiter.
Oh, that dude.
Yeah,
He's a dude with he usually wears like yellow shirt. And
yeah, the beanie, the cool beanie guy.
cool beanie. That's a very fancy beanie.
Is it?
It's really nice.
Why?
It's nice.
It's just nice. Yeah.
It's just nice.
So is your hat. I like the brand.
You like do you like the sweat stains on it?
Oh, I now see. Is that you sweat that much on set?
Yep.
Is it because you stress out about lighting?
No, because lighting is always smooth.
Oh.
No, just fucking with you. No. Lighting. Sorry. These intros really we have to like get something together.
Oh, it's still the intro.
Still the
Jesus
intro.
Christ.
No, lighting is one of the most important thing to me when it comes to cinematography. And
When did you realize that? Because
when did I realize that?
It took a while for me when I started. I'm talking about when I started out with the whole thing. It took a while to figure out that lighting is actually what makes pictures beautiful, not the camera, the lens, and I mean everything does, but the biggest part is lighting.
Yeah.
Like the thing that you see in films, and you're like, that looks so cinematic. That looks so filming. It's light.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I realized that I think after a few trial and errors, trying to get my images to look like the images I liked to see on the big screen, and I realized that I was not able to achieve this. Everything was either underexposed, overexposed, or just looked really not nice. And it took me a long time because I think, as you said, like that one of the first thing you think when you start off in this business is like, oh, I need like the best camera because the best camera is gonna give me the best image, which is not wrong, but the best camera alone is not gonna give you the great image. You can shoot with like an Alexa 65. If you do shoot like indoors, no lighting, you can get a better looking image probably with like a Blackmagic and proper lighting. 100%.
Absolutely.
Same thing with lenses. There's this big craze about anamorphic lenses. Anamorphic lenses will give you this movie look that everybody likes. Fair. It's gonna.
But
give
if you don't light it the way
Exactly.
that movies look, then it's still gonna be flat, and you're like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just so lighting doesn't not necessarily mean adding a lot of light. It's just like understanding even natural light.
Putting the light where you want it.
Putting the light where you want it, and also taking away the light where you don't want it.
Right.
And I think
essentially creating contrast.
Everything is about contrast. And the part, this is going a little bit everywhere, but we're going to get more structure. But the part where we're taking away the light, I think this one took me much longer than like understanding to put the light. Because you put the light and then you don't have any contrast, and you have to understand. But anyways, very long intro. You guys pretty understood.
No, we dove straight in. It was just a fluid going through the.
But so I said, like, when did you realize that lighting was important?
It's a good question. When I asked you, I actually thought about it. I was lucky enough to talk to a lot of good DPs early when I did some internships at movie productions, and a lot of people said already that, I mean, they were further, of course, but already then I heard the phrase like, I wanna now like further educate me on lighting. I only want to concentrate on lighting now. Yeah. And I was always like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, but why? It's not that cool. It's cooler to be the DP and be able to, little that I know, to be able to be the cameraman and capturing these things. Why do we want to focus on lighting? And the more and more, like you said, the more I realized why, like at the beginning, I was always like, why does my stuff not look like that? Because I saw YouTubers using Sony Alphas and whatever, like the same cameras that I was using.
Yeah.
And creating just such beautiful images, much more beautiful than mine. And I was like, why? What are they doing? Like the same settings, the same camera. What are they doing better than me? And it was all lighting. Yeah. Framing and lighting. That's maybe like, let's leave framing out, but just lighting.
How do you,
biggest part. And that's when I realized, and I tried out and I learned more, and I learned, contrast. So I started to see images that I really liked, and I didn't know why. I was like, oh my God, this frame looks so good, but why? And the more I learned, the more I was like, oh, it's the contrast. It's that the right thing that my eye is supposed to look at is lit the way that my eye automatically looks to it. And it fades out the unimportant, the contrast. Just the more I understood, the more I knew, okay, that's what makes the...
And how do you go about lighting in your pre-production process? If, let's say you hired as a DP, you're obviously going to have something to say about the lighting, even if there are people like working something on that, gaffers and stuff only on that on set. How do you go about it? Like how, because this goes hand in hand, I'd say, with like framing and just like stuff.
Of course.
How quick do you get lighting in the pre-production process?
Well, in my head, it's the whole time, but so I want to say this is not the way to do it. That's just how I do it. It works for me. Yeah. I like to do it. I like to be very specific, like step by step. And I have a lot of discussions with directors and producers because I just have this specific workflow. And if it doesn't go that way, my brain is like, no, it doesn't make sense to me. I need to know this first before I decide this. Yeah. So I want to know the story, obviously, at first. Like, what's the story about? What's this for? Is it for a brand? Is it to promote something? Is it just a story you want to tell? Blah, blah. And then the next is the mood. I want to understand, okay, you want to tell this story. What kind of mood do you want to tell it? Is it going to be super dark, super bright, super happy, super sad? And I want to see images. I want to see references. Like, what do you mean it should be dark? Because for some people, dark might be what this is. Yeah. It might be moody, yes, but it's not super dark. And if you tell me dark, I might be, oh, it's super dark. Like, it's very low-key. Yeah. So seeing references and then I want to go through with the person in charge, mostly it's the director. I want to go through this mood pitch and say, okay, this one. Because just a while back, I had a director tell me, I want to shoot this, like the Euphoria scene. I don't know if you saw Euphoria. The scene where they have the projector and they do the thing about dick pics, I think. Yeah. You remember? Yeah. So he said this, and I said, okay, but what do you like about it? So we went through, and he told me. I like
the haze about it.
I like the haze, the contrast, the color, the color contrast of the light. So I want to figure out really what's the thing that you like about it. And then once I understand, I go about it and I can see the location next and see where we shoot it and then figure out how do we light it to get the look. And also, of course, my
personal
taste and my style comes into it, and it gives a mix, it gives a new thing. And then after I saw the location, then we can decide how we light it. And also, of course, budget goes in, like what can we even use? Like, do we have
ARRI money or
very small budget to light this? And time also, time is very important. Do we need to go tighter, or can we have like wide shots of the whole thing? And so this step by step really makes and just time, it helps me to sorry, this is a long answer, but I'm about to be done. Time helps me, like having time with the director, with the project, kind of feeling more into it gives me more. It just step by step, it's clear what we have to do. Yeah. Because at the beginning, there's so many options. You could do this way, but then as you go on, okay, we don't have that big crew. It doesn't make sense to put up all this equipment. You don't even have the people, the hands to do it. So forget it. So all this time, going through the project helps to decide, okay, we do it this way.
Have you ever been on set, like not on set, but like in the pre-production process, and you realize that the vision that the director had was not necessarily in line with what you actually enjoy doing? let's say.
Of course.
And then did you find it harder then to like do the lighting concept off of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Same.
Has happened.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens to everyone, I think. And I think at some point you have to decide, like, is it, there has been projects that I said, look, honestly, this is something I have trouble with figuring out because it keeps pulling me in that other direction that is my style and that
too bright.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, I'm not a person, I have my own style, but I actually enjoy having this challenge of creating something. Like, also as a photographer especially, I like having that challenge of we want that look, even if it's not mine.
Yeah.
Just having that challenge, figuring out how do I get this look? How do I manage to get this with whatever we have, with whatever budget, with our people, the location. That is what I enjoy most, having that challenge to create exactly that.
And I think
I like that.
Yeah, same.
How's it for you?
What do you mean, like the?
Sorry, you want to say whatever you wanted to say, and then we'll go on.
The having to create images that are not necessarily like in the style you usually create images. I think it's, as you said, a lot harder because like you don't have the same mechanism and like the same process. You don't think that way. But at the end of the day, I really like it because it pushes you to get out of your comfort zone. Because if it was up to me and if I was just like hired out to like do just like the very specific thing that I like, the lighting setups would be probably like the same on like 95% of the projects.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you don't want that because like after that, your portfolio and like what you do is completely the same thing. Could be like one same big movie basically. And like having,
you still want to keep learning. And
you have to want to keep learning, and you have to understand, I think, how to light in different ways. So that you're more skillful, obviously, but that you can sometimes tweak different things in the way you 100%. Do things usually to accommodate like one specific project. And this has been really, at first I was really trying to often push the way I like to light, which is I think the way you like to light as well, like a lot of backlighting and like a lot of moody, a lot of contrast. But I've worked with like a few directors that actually prefer like really high key, less contrast, a more flatter look. And the first time I was exposed to this in the pre-production, I was like, okay, cool, we can shoot this. We have a couple of days to shoot it. How many scenes? Like, what's the story behind it? As you said, it's really important. And then I was like, do you have reference frames? And he showed me like a few reference frames, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is completely different than what I usually do. It's a lot more high key, not high key in like the commercial sense of things, but just like a lot brighter,
less contrast.
Yeah. And at first, it was really hard for me to like not accept this because like I'm getting paid to like do whatever this guy wants to do, so like I don't have anything to say about it. But I was like always trying to like tweak things a little bit, like maybe okay, cool, we can do this, but maybe we can add.
You have to keep in mind, it's not supposed to look like what I usually do.
Exactly.
Keep that in mind, and like, no,
and then you have to
contrast.
like put yourself back and like, less neck feel and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I think and I've grown to actually like it. Because for my personal stuff and like for projects that call for it, it's always okay. You can go do your thing, but
then work is
different.
A challenge. Like do whatever is needed.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
And so I've grown. I've grown to actually like images and like films that are not shot the same way I like to shoot. Just because I like to pick my brain out and like look at a picture and like, okay, this is more like a beauty shot for, like a beauty company, less contrast, more like it's high,
100%.
More high key and stuff.
100%.
And I just think it's like in this mindset of like always trying to grow, even if it's not growing in the direction you want to grow, but just understanding the process to get there.
Yeah.
I think just makes you a better cinematographer. And
100%.
Yeah.
So we heard my process, how I go about it, kind of.
Yeah.
I would love to hear yours.
Well, mine is fairly similar to yours, I think. I'm a very obviously visual person. So as soon as if I only read a script, for instance, and not like a storyboard, of course, the script, I already have the hero shots kind of in my head, and especially the opening shot, or I focus on the opening shots most of the time for commercial work, opening shots, or like the main shot, like the hero shot. And even just reading the script, I already have in mind like frames that are not necessarily what's gonna be created for the final product, but it just gives me like a framework in which I can work.
Right.
And then again, after that, it's just working with the director. As you said, I think your process is fairly similar to a lot of standard-ish.
Yeah. I don't honestly know, but that's what makes the most sense for me. And
it just makes sense. You read the script, you have different like ideas, and sometimes the director just comes up and say, okay, so do you want to make propositions as to how you would like the thing to look? And sometimes it's really great to do that. So I come up with my ideas, trying to fit the project and not my personal taste necessarily. Or sometimes the director comes in and I was like pretty a good idea of what he or she wants to achieve, and this is when we have to like kind of like work around it to like have it look the way they want. So as soon as I have this, usually what helps a lot is location scouting, because you can have like the craziest idea, and like if for instance you want to light from the outside but you're on like the 5th floor and you don't have the budget to have a crane or something outside, chances are you're not going to be able to light from outside. So then the lighting concept is going to be defined basically after the location scouting, and being on location and being able to see where the sun is at what time of the day, being able to see at what floor we're in, if we have space, if we only have to use light mats or like tubes because we don't have space to have like big diffusion and stuff. This is what helps me a lot. Before location scouting, I think I just come up with like concepts. There are general concepts that are not necessarily applicable to like the project. But the location scouting, this is where like you're like, okay, I can rig this on this beam up there. I can light from outside. I can do this. And this is where the whole lighting concept comes in place. And as you said, and this is something, when you first start, you won't have that issue that much. But as soon as you get in like bigger production with like a slightly larger project budgets, the budget is like key. Like how much gear can you get in?
I was gonna say the same thing. I mean, let's be honest, we both haven't been lucky enough to work on really big budget projects.
Yeah.
So actually, the aspect of what is possible, what gear are we, how many people are we going to be, what gear can we use, is actually most of the time one of the biggest ones to decide how you're going to light something, because
I think
you are limited
crew.
by that. Especially crew.
Because like nowadays, lights, to be fair, if you have like a decent light budget, chances are you can get enough output to like basically do whatever you want. With Aperture, like we were talking about it, Aperture has like really affordable options that like kind of like match HMI and like sky panels and stuff, which are really pricey.
Absolutely.
You can probably rent those for like fairly cheap and get the output and the type of light that you need.
But you need hands to put them up.
Exactly. And this is
them down.
This is the biggest issue, and this is the thing I fight the most for when I make offers, when I have to do the production for the whole thing, not only DPing, is how many people can we get on set? Because you can do a lot with like yourself, with like the shoots we worked on together. We can do so much, but then after that we don't have time.
Yeah,
because we have to think about the camera, we have to think about.
Or you just need to take like 3 times the time.
Exactly.
To be able to set everything up, 2-3 people, and then shoot.
Exactly. And this is what I'm trying to, when I talk with clients for like larger-ish productions, is that it's either we have more people in one day or we have to have 2 days of shoot.
Absolutely.
And most of the time
it's simple.
Most of the time having 2 days of shoot is more expensive than just one day. And
with a little more people.
A little more.
Because you don't often, you might have a gaffer who's, I don't want to say expensive or not, it's just, he costs more than an assistant or a best boy, for sure. But you have one gaffer who decides and who helps you like being the brain. Yeah. But then you just need hands to put these things up, to carry stands, twist, put them up. You know, just being at the location and being able to set it up in a half an hour instead of 2 hours, because you're just 2 people, 4 hands.
And it makes the whole process, it makes sense, but it makes the whole process as well like a lot more enjoyable when, especially as like if you're DPing or like if you're directing and DPing, like most of the time, like you can just focus on like what you have to do. Yeah. And you can just give directions as to, okay, I want a soft light coming in that way. We're going to shoot at like T4, whatever, and then we have to balance this out. And this makes everything so much faster. So the client is happier because we can shoot more in one day. The result is a lot better because we can be more precise as to what we do. And also what you do, framing and like understanding the composition and like the camera movement is going to be a lot better, because you don't have to think, oh shit, I have to go rig this 1200D outside on like HMI stand or whatever. You can just do this. And we were kind of like going away from the lighting part, but I think this is underestimated sometimes. You can have a truck full of like HMI and sky panels, but if you have no one to like put them up,
you have one person to put them up, then have fun. We'll have coffee. We'll meet back in 3 hours when everything's set up. And I think also what you said is very important. The client is going to be happier, because the whole a lot of times I said, and I heard from other people, it's not coming from me, that actually a lot of clients, when you shoot with clients on set and at their location, what they actually enjoy is the process of shooting, the fun, the day, because for them it's something so special shooting. Their whole location is turned upside down. There's lights, there's people, there's actors, and that's what they really enjoy. And if they enjoyed that day, then the product doesn't even have to be that good. But if the process and the memory of the shoot was interesting, then chances are they're going to be wanting to shoot with you again.
Take care of your clients.
Absolutely. And that goes with lighting, like with the crew as well. If you have enough people, the whole process is going to be easier, and they're going to look back and like, oh my God, they did this whole thing in just half an hour. The whole location looked different. It was lit. Instead of, okay, we only paid half the price, but they took 3 hours and I was waiting, and the whole production needed to wait or whatever.
And so I think this is
that goes into it.
And fair. What you said is 100% right. It's just really hard to justify it to the client when you first.
You cannot tell them that, because they never will understand. They only feel that afterwards. They're like, oh, it was so good.
They only see the numbers on the paper, and they're like, why is it? Why do you spend 6K a day on like a day of shoot when I can get like this guy, he has like a Sony A7 and he can do it for like 1,000 a day.
And he even has a drone. He even said he would take some drone shots.
Yeah, my cousin has a drone.
And then you ask, why do you need a drone shot?
I don't know.
That's why. No, anyway, we're drifting off. Yes.
So lighting is really important. We talked about a little bit about the process of, the lighting concept and stuff. Every project is different, but if you were to shoot personal stuff, do you have like a few?
Moody.
Yeah,
Contrast.
moody. Yeah, same. No, but do you have like a list? Because I definitely have like and I didn't come up with this myself. This is Patrick O'Sullivan. Shout out to the Wandering DP. He has like something called the framework, which I discovered not so long ago, maybe 6 months or maybe a year ago. But I was doing this without knowing the framework. But
you don't know why you were doing it, huh?
I didn't know why. Okay. And hearing the framework and putting it in like kind of bullet points, like 0.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually made me realize that that's what I was doing, and it made the process a lot easier for me. And
so just tell people, what is it?
Well, I don't know all the points, but it's very simple, and it's simple to say, but like to do it is like a little harder.
So maybe just quickly, I just want to explain for people that don't know. So this framework, I think what he says, because I know him too, and I watched his podcast as well, and I think what he says is, the framework basically is, if you don't know what to do coming to a location,
exactly.
If you don't want to try anything special, go about these 3 and it looks fine.
Yeah,
you will be fine.
Exactly.
So that's actually what the framework is for. It's not like this is everything. No. Only do this. That's not the idea. It's just, if you're not sure,
if you're in a pinch, not sure, and maybe you don't have time, or maybe it's a last minute shoot.
Keep these points in mind, and you'll be fine.
Exactly.
So tell them what
I usually do though is like I still use that framework and build off of it for when I have more time on lighting. Essentially, and we joke about it like all the time. It's the first thing is backlighting looks better than like front lighting, basically.
What does backlighting mean?
Backlighting is basically the subject is between you and the light. That's simple.
So shooting from the shadow side.
It could be the sunlight. It could be
just like right now. If you're on YouTube,
right now,
this is backlight. Actually, it's also top light, but you can see that our half that is further away from the camera is brighter than the side that is closer.
And what it creates is it creates a lot of contrast, as we said. Sorry, a lot of contrast, and it just makes the face and like the images more interesting. Because if you were with this camera, if you were on the other side, would look really flat just because like
everything would be the same brightness.
Exactly. So the first thing is this. Then it's the second point that I do. I'm not sure if it goes in that way, but the second point is try to create depth as much as possible. The easiest way to do that is shooting the L of the room. And this is something we joke about all the time on set, but just find the more space you can behind what you're shooting. And this is a very bad example here, but you know, if you had like this camera, for instance, has a little more depth behind film, focal length help, but you know, you create a lot of interesting stuff, but depth could also be foreground element or background element. Just create layers. And
you don't actually need a lot of like location-wise, a lot of depth. You just need interest in the back.
Exactly.
That conceives depth.
Exactly.
So don't shoot a white wall, but shoot more interesting things that are in the background. So you perceive depth.
White walls are usually a no-go unless you have something very, if it calls for it, shoot a white wall, but like usually not. But also most of the time when you do tilted you shoot someone from like like facing upwards, sometimes you have the sky only or something like flat behind it. It doesn't look too good, but so adding like a little bit of foreground elements or a little bit of background elements helps a lot with like, I think the perception of depth essentially.
So backlight. L of the room.
L of the room is basically depth. And another way we achieve depth a lot is using haze. We kind of like haze. If you don't know what haze is basically just like light as smoke. Basically, that just instead of like being smoky, it's just like filling the whole room. And what it does is that it
more dense.
Yeah, it's a little bit more dense. I don't think it's the same product in it.
No, it's another liquid, I think.
It's another liquid. Yeah. It creates light beams. Sorry, you know, when you have it like if you was hazing here, you can see like maybe the top shot, like the top light, and it creates depth. I think it all comes down to create depth, and
it's to create on a 2-dimensional image,
3D,
make it feel 3D,
make it pop.
Yeah,
and the funny thing, make it pop. Yeah, no, make it pop. And funny enough, it's a kind of a tangent talking about lenses, but some lenses are better at creating 3D pop than others. Some are really flat, some are like a little bit more 3-dimensional. So yeah, and I think these are like the 3-4 points that I always look for, and you can build off of. And that's it, I think. Am I missing anything? I think that's it.
I don't know if he has more points. I actually don't know the whole framework. I've never seen it.
That's what it,
I just heard him talk about it, but
that's crazy. And when you realize this and you start applying this, it's a lot of trial and error, obviously. But like when you start to,
one thing, I don't know if he has it in, but it's definitely matching in that framework. I would definitely put that in as well. Is creating contrast not just by brightness, darkness, but color contrast with lights. You know, so having maybe the subject lit with, let's say, a daylight fixture, like 5,500, 5,600 Kelvin. Yeah. But then in the background, having like small practicals that are warm. Yeah. So that your eye sees the depth also by the color. Yeah. So they know that the foreground, the subject is white. Yeah. Right? And then the background, there's something warm. It just creates this depth again. It's a nice, the color.
I think it's a nice, very true. And it's a nice segue to the next point I want to talk about. Lighting. When we think about lighting, it's obviously the additional light that you bring to a scene, like maybe the HMI or like a 1200 blasting through a window and stuff, but it's also practicals. And this is something, practicals are essentially lights that are in the shot, either either like something like this, or just like a bedside lamp, or like
something that fits into the location.
And usually what, at least I try, but I think you do as well, is when you have lights like this that add like points of interest in the back, you can also use this as like a motivation for the lighting you put in. For instance, you shoot like dinner table. Yeah. You have you can clearly see like there's something on top. Yeah. Maybe you can add like a LED mat with like some black cinefoil to like accentuate basically and like get rid of the flickers, but just the human eye will perceive this as like a regular,
more natural
fixture, and it's more natural. Because I think lighting, you don't always need to have it look natural, but you have to have it look understandable. So I don't know if that makes sense. Absolutely. You don't
Because,
necessarily
like you said, everybody has been on a table on a family dinner on Christmas Eve. Everybody knows that, I guess, 90% of the time, there's a light on top of the table because that's just how our houses are set up.
Yeah.
So if there's a top light at a dinner table,
Yeah.
everybody will look. It will look natural because we've all seen it.
Yeah.
But if there is blue light, or no, let's say if there is purple light blasting through the windows, everybody will be like, "This kind of looks funny."
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There you go.
And I think finding motivation for the light source is one of the best things to do if you want your image to look natural. It doesn't have to be realistic. I think it's the main thing to...
It's actually, a lot of times it's not realistic.
It's not.
Absolutely not.
If you look like a night scene in a movie, when you go out in the countryside, it doesn't look anything like this.
Yes.
The moon does not do that. But if you look at night scenes, it definitely shows, you can have a little bit of backlight sometimes. I mean, it looks not realistic, but it looks natural. I don't know if that makes sense, what I just said.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and this is something I had a really hard time at first, because first I was overlighting, so you could feel it. It was really not natural. And then I was like, okay, this looks like shit. I have to dial it back down. So I was trying to just light naturally. Realistically. And it didn't look good because it was just accentuating the lighting
that's there. Yeah.
So it didn't make any sense. And then when I realized that I just had to like make it look good and somewhat realistic, not necessarily like natural.
It's funny that we speak about natural because I found out not recently, but more and more, that actually my style, I like to light unnatural. Yeah. Not like fully. Of course, there's some projects that just call for. There's no point in having, I don't know. But I noticed that I like to create more something that maybe hasn't been seen in nature or in your everyday life. Yeah. Like personally, that I like to do that. I like to create new styles of lighting that usually you wouldn't see because I just like to dive into a film or something that just looks different. Yeah. And I think I'm gonna follow that more and try to. Euphoria
is kind of like this.
Absolutely. Yes, that's true.
It's a stylistic choice.
Yes.
And
also it matches the story. We have to keep that in mind. It matches because they are this. Euphoria, it's about drugs and teenagers having, dealing with drugs and dealing with the brain that is, when you're a teenager, it's fucked up anyway. So the whole perception for the viewer should be special as well. That's probably, I'm just saying that out of my mind, but probably why they went with kind of being more artistic, more unnatural. Because
I think you said it right, and this is something we're gonna say, like almost on every podcast. It has to fit the project. Yeah. Because if you look at one of my, Terrence Malick, Tree of Life. This is one of my. I've talked about it on this podcast before.
Course, probably.
In terms of natural lighting, this is one of my favorite movie ever.
They used a lot of daylight, right?
I don't like the storyline. I don't really like it, but visually, I think it's one of my favorite. Lots of wide angle and lots of natural light. And I think I talked about it already, but this whole... You see the movie?
I don't think I've finished it.
Yeah, like a lot of people.
But I don't know what the reason was, honestly. I don't remember.
It's kind of like, if you look at it like a movie, it's really hard to follow. If you look at it just like a performance, sort of. But they have this whole setup where they're in like a suburban house in like mid-50s in the States. And I think they lit everything with natural light. So barely no additional fixtures anywhere. Lots of like sunset bounce and
feels
stuff.
Much more natural watching it.
And it feels much more natural. And this is the feeling they wanted to have.
That's what real.
Real. Say, yeah. And this is the feeling I think they wanted to have. And if they were to put lights like in the Marvel movie, for instance, the movie would feel completely different.
It would feel like a comic, like a fiction.
Like a fiction. So I think this is I think it has to fit the project. It fits the project. And we talked a lot about lights and maybe a little bit about like, sky panels and stuff. But let's not forget that the sun is a light as well. And you can do a lot of stuff with the sun only, like bouncing, but also blocking the sun, diffusing the sun. And Again, for a more natural look, sometimes this is all you need. If you're outside, maybe have a, I don't know, like a 8 by butterfly above the talent's head, and diffuse the harsh light, and you're good to go.
Recently, I've had trouble using the sun just for my personal
because
taste.
it's Switzerland in November.
Fair.
So,
Sun is up for like 10 hours a day.
yeah.
No, but I've noticed that I really like to be in charge. I really like to create the image that
like,
is in my
Mother Nature,
mind.
fuck you. I want
Who
to
is
put
sun?
that. I want to
Whose
put that
son?
2K over there.
It's your son?
No.
No.
Whose son is it? You son of. Oh, I got the first.
Good job.
Yeah.
No, but I just haven't. Every time I've had a project, I really wanted to be in charge.
Yeah.
I wanted to create exactly what I had in mind, and using the sun, just you can change things, but not
You can
100%.
shape
Like
it.
in a studio, you can do 100%.
Oh, for sure.
100% of the lighting, you can do whatever you want.
For sure.
But outside, you're always limited by the brightness of the sun and by whatever you have. Of course, you can block the whole sun, but then you might as well go into a studio because it's the same thing. So, I don't know. I'm really excited to shoot outside again and to do something with the sun and because recently I've just like every time I had a project, I worked with lights only almost.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited to use the sun again because I've kind of lost that. I don't know that touch to it. I haven't done it in a while. That's
you
what
haven't done it, but that's good. I mean, I think like it goes in phases, Like,
but also, I noticed that's my style. I like to do that. So definitely gonna follow it. But I'm excited to shoot outside in the sun again.
I think it's more challenging, 100%.
Yes,
because you're dealing with the sun moving, so you won't be able to stay.
Yes, productionally, yes, but artistically, it's easier because it kills your.
Yeah.
It puts a box around it. Like you can only do so much.
Yeah.
In a studio, the other thing, it's easier to work.
Yeah.
But it's much more hard artistically because you can do anything.
You can do anything.
So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
All the options.
I think
you have to create everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Much harder.
And that's a lot harder. I think what I like about shooting outside is, and with natural light, with bouncing, neg, and like diffusion, obviously, but I think you're more limited in terms of camera movement, focal length that you can use, sort of, to a certain extent. You're going to be a lot tighter, I think, when you shoot outside than maybe in studio environments. You can do whatever in studio environments because you can basically cater to like the final frame that you want. You want a really wide shot, just light it for the real wide shot. You want a tight shot, just light it. Whereas with the sun, you're like, it's easier to like diffuse, set up, but then in terms of camera operation, I think it's a little harder because like you have to take a lot of things into consideration. Background, where the sun is, you don't have a lot of time, focal length that you can use. Like
absolutely,
stuff. I think like both are good. They all have their own challenges, but
yes,
light is important. You can make that a reel.
Just that?
Yeah. Just post this. Light is important. No, light is really
Phil,
important.
if you're editing this, do this. And give me something else for a reel. Just whatever. Hey now.
It's really weird to have this mapped out to the voice because it feels like you're talking to me, but you don't. Your lips don't move.
Hey now.
Whoa.
There you go.
That's crazy.
I think that wraps it up, right?
That wraps it up. Bye-bye to the Kin Cat and
cheers to this episode.
Do you still want Coke?
I want you.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.